Baruch, the scribe to Jeremiah the prophet, is responsible for recording a whole hunk of Jeremiah's prophecies, putting them in written form for posterity. That makes him one of the few people whom we can name as having actually written down important parts of the Old Testament. Most of the Old Testament, by contrast, was compiled from unnamed sources and anonymous editors. But Baruch, to quote from the recent musical Hamilton, was in the room where it happened, and for his trouble, God granted him a consolation prize. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Thursday, August 10th, 2023. We don't know a ton about Baruch. We know that he worked closely with the prophet Jeremiah, often writing down the prophet's oracles, and sometimes even reading them to others on the prophet's behalf. And we know that his brother was a high official in the court of Zedekiah, the last king of Judah. We assume from all this that he was from a relatively prominent family, all of which raises the stakes for Baruch. Anyone who reads the book of Jeremiah knows what trouble the prophet endured over his lifetime. His prophecies were not popular, either with the people or with the various kings and their officials to whom he proclaimed his oracles. Yesterday, for example, we saw how Jeremiah was thrown into an almost dry cistern where he was expected to die by sinking into the muck. Baruch would almost certainly have suffered as a result of his association with Jeremiah. It would have been much easier for him to have faded into the woodwork rather than stick his neck out for his troublesome boss. But he remained faithful to Jeremiah and by extension to God, whose oracles Baruch believed and recorded. The shortest chapter in the book of Jeremiah is chapter 45, just 5 verses in length. It records an oracle from God directed not to the people of Judah in general or even to the king and his court, but to Baruch alone. It is a promise to Baruch about how God will care for him after the disaster comes upon Judah and the country when they're destroyed by the Babylonians. Here's the chapter in full. The word that the prophet Jeremiah spoke to Baruch, son of Neriah, when he wrote these words in a scroll at the dictation of Jeremiah in the 4th year of King Jehoiakim, son of Josiah of Judah. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, to you, O Baruch. You said, Woe is me! The Lord has added sorrow to my pain. I am weary from my groaning, and I find no rest. Thus you shall say to him, Thus says the Lord, I am going to break down what I have built and pluck up what I have planted, that is, the whole land. And you, do you seek great things for yourself? Do not seek them, for I am going to bring disaster upon all flesh, says the Lord. But I will give you your life as a prize of war in every place to which you may go. Notice first that this oracle is set during the reign not of Zedekiah, the last king of Judah, but during the reign of Jehoiakim, 2 kings before Zedekiah. That means this was something like 15 or so years before the destruction of Jerusalem and the Babylonian exile. But already, God is speaking words of assurance to Baruch. At first reading, these may not sound like very reassuring words. After all, the complete destruction of Judah was not yet a foregone conclusion. God's promise to Baruch is that after all the destruction is complete, though, and Baruch is carried away to another land, God will preserve his life. In a real sense, though, God is speaking not only to Baruch, but to the people as well. The question is, what is to become of the people of Judah once the 3 pillars of their common life are wiped away? And what are those 3 pillars? Judah was defined by 3 institutions: the land itself, apart from which they could not imagine being a distinct people, the kingship, and the temple, the center of their worship of Yahweh, their God. This oracle already has in view the emergence of a new way of continuing to be God's people. What will emerge is not yet in view here, but the survival of Baruch, and by extension the people of Judah as the people of God, anticipates the time when land, kingship, and temple will no longer define Judaism. In time, these will be replaced by what would become known as Rabbinic Judaism, where the study of Torah, law, becomes the glue that unites the people. But for now, it is enough that for Baruch, God will ensure his survival, a reward for his faithfulness in carrying out his mission of communicating the words of the prophet Jeremiah, even during times when it would have been easier to go along with those in power who could have made his life much more comfortable. There's an important lesson here for us, isn't there? It is the importance of keeping faith with God when those in power can make our lives difficult. Tomorrow, the unnamed widow of Zarephath. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.